With the harpies, yeah.
This man knows his Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Even I didn't know that.
yeah, no, I grew, part of my like middle school days was like going, like I think we talked about it before. So we're like the afternoon school days. Oh, my Valentine, that's what it is.
Dude, I was a Pokemon dude. I didn't. I knew Yu-Gi-Oh existed, but I was like, whatever. Like it just. I
But
don't know.
it was like one of
Never.
those things like after school where like all the kids would gather like as an after school club play Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon. Like we
Yeah,
had
yeah.
you had
We
that in
we
droves at my school.
we had like different groups, like in different parts of town. Since it's everything is so small here in terms of location, you'd see like a group at McDonald's, a group behind the school, a group at the gym or whatever. It's like it's like a tournament. Like you have to go to each group to like beat different people. I had a friend who was obsessed, so I knew every corner.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Yu-Gi-Oh,
All right.
Pegasus, goofy ass.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. You're like, look, it says it right there. Did you ever try to bring like the fake cards in? I definitely did a couple times. Like they're washed out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
man, the hustle is real.
Yeah. The watercolors are a little off. Yeah.
Oh, Macho, can you check if everyone's sounding good? Cool, cool.
Give
Yeah,
me one
please.
second.
Want to make sure that. Ooh, Soul is bringing in the big guns with that game today. That's a good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Good shit.
No, it's funny because I was going to play Last of Us Part 2 on the stream, but
Ooh.
so I was playing last night and I was getting my butt handed to me, man, because I'm playing on hard plus and I'm on the
Oh.
Seraphites level and like I have
Hmm.
like two arrows on me. I have like two bullets and my health is on red with like every time that I die and load in, like that's how I'm starting out every single time. And I'm just like getting my
Jesus.
ass handed to me every single time. So I'm like, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need this for the podcast. I
Are
don't
you
need
in
anyone to see this.
you're in the island where you can't see shit, like everyone's hiding?
No, no. The first time that Ellie meets the Seraphites.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's mainly like
Where
a
they're
stealth
whistling.
section. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That part.
Okay. Gotcha.
Still fun, but yeah.
All right,
Oh
so
yeah, for
I
sure.
can't hear Mr. BadBit here, but you might have to mess with his mic a little bit. Maybe Soul, you have a suggestion? Yeah, no. Yeah, on the stream, yeah.
Mm, no.
Because I know Soul had a couple of problems with it before.
Couple.
Let's see. I'm gonna check into settings real quick.
Do y'all hear?
A little bit.
Is it too obnoxious?
No, it's fine.
Gotcha. Because sometimes I sneeze and I don't want to get that on on the podcast.
Okay.
Hmm. Just live streaming straight off the PS5.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that still true, Matcha?
no. Exodia took him.
Yeah, no, I still can't hear him.
It was weird. Like, Soul just had to, like, enable one little thing, and it fixed the whole thing.
But that was for
don't
me.
know.
That was because I
Yeah.
wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't because of
But,
anybody
like-
else.
But, like, maybe it can be, like, the same thing where it's, like, an option that we're not familiar with. I mean, I don't know with the PS5.
Yeah, 'cause I can hear Soul, I can hear Walt, but it's just MrBadBit. I can't hear.
I don't know if it has the allow a voice to be shared. Is that a thing in the PS5?
And also, what did it for me was I had my headphone set plugged into my controller and not my microphone. Okay.
I got it. Yeah, you're right. There you go. You should be able to hear me now.
Okay.
How is it, Macho?
Can you hear me? You hear me all good?
testing.
Can you hear me?
All right, we're good.
Ah,
Yeah.
hear my voice.
Yay.
We got fucking.
There
There
you
we
go.
go.
You heard your beautiful silky voice. That was it, my man. That was it.
I don't know if it's beautiful or silky, but I'll take it.
that was close, man. Almost gave me a heart attack right there for a minute.
Oh man.
Guys,
That would've
welcome
sucked.
back to the 12th episode of the DualShock and Sense Podcast. I am your host, the anime waifu connoisseur, Soul. With me, as always, I got my two beautiful co-hosts who are Lady Dimitrescu stands number 1 and 2. Macho, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. What's going on, everybody? It's the King of Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy fanatic, and apparently Lady Dimitrescu fan and fanatic number 1.
Hey, you heard,
I'm doing
you
good,
heard what
man.
you just
It's
said?
been-
Well, you said you're number 2, man.
Exactly, because I got the PS5. That's why.
Ooh.
I'll take it, man. There ain't anything I can do.
No, it's been a good week. Last week was pretty crazy, and then this week is kind of keeping the trends a little more mellow. But regardless, a lot of really fun things are happening, and we got a really cool show for you guys today.
Definitely. And we also got Walt, apparently the number 2 Lady Dimitrescu fan. How you doing, man?
I mean, that was you. You said that. What's up, y'all? This week, I am the Resident Evil maniac because that's all I've been playing. That's all I've been doing. I am loving it. I'm loving today. We have a great episode planned for y'all, and I'll let Soul take it away to introduce our special guest today.
Yes, sir. We got ourselves a little bit of a crossover here. We got MrBadBit from the Trophy Room of PlayStation podcast hopping on to the podcast with us. How are you doing, man? I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Let me tell you, I almost broke my Shure mic right here. Oh goodness, I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm very excited to drop by and talk some PlayStation with everybody. It's been a crazy few weeks. This week in particular has been pretty goddamn bananas. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Definitely. And I just want to say, like, genuinely, I really appreciate you coming through, stopping by a little podcast like us, just getting started. It definitely means a lot, for sure.
Of course.
So yeah, before we jump into the podcast, man, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat and I want to pick your brain a little bit.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah. So why don't you take some time to tell us about the podcast, man? The Trophy Room. How did it start? Was it just so? I guess like was it just a desire to talk about games in a more in-depth sort of way, for you guys? Like how did that come together?
Great question. It all came out of, first off, the DNA of what the Trophy Room is for me has to be like mid podcast beyond. You know, I really dug the Colin and Greg vibe, where you really did feel like, you know, these were two friends talking in a room and you're there with them.
Yeah.
So that was always the vibe I wanted to set off with the trophy room. And it all 2000 what? When did the Switch come out? When did Horizon come out? 2017,
Yeah, 2017.
right? Yeah.
Legendary year, by the way.
Legendary, dude. So good. And um, you know, uh, Greg announced that PlayStation I Love You was going to be going. It would be no longer a thing. And that was my favorite podcast forever. Like that was the thing that I was excited the most to go and listen to every week. I never missed an episode, and so I was really pissed when he decided to end the podcast. So much so that I had the Thanos moment of, all right, I'm gonna do it myself. How hard could starting a podcast be? And at this time, I had a YouTube channel, so I thought I kind of knew what how to make a show. And originally the proto show was me and my friend Ren, and she decided that she wanted to start this job, get married, and have a kid. And I'm like, that's fun. See you later.
Yeah, what the hell? Who would do that?
Yeah, I know. Right? And during this time, I went to a kind of funny meetup, and I met this kid named Kyle. And Kyle is just the kindest person in the world. Like, this guy is genuinely the sweetest human being you can meet. He's the most well-intentioned. He's like the Captain America, really. But like, if like giving hugs and not fighting. He's just always well-intentioned and just always so freaking good. He's the good in all of us. And so
He just celebrated her birthday, right?
yeah.
Happy birthday to him, man. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, my man. And so like he wanted to be on a podcast. I was looking for co-hosts, and I didn't tell him this, but like I was scouting around, and the first episode that he guested on, I just loved it. I loved his energy. I loved his passion. And for me, like, I'm a fake fan. I always tell myself of PlayStation because, I had PlayStations, but PlayStation was never my go-to. It was always actually my Xbox until like my seventh red ring, and then I gave up on it. I used to be a dumb Xbox fanboy. When I got my PS3, I bought it because one guy was selling it at GameStop for weed. So like, it's like that's my origin story of like me buying this dank ass console, putting it on Uncharted, and going, oh my god, there's some great games here. And
I mean, that's a fair trade, to be honest. It's a fair trade.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Shout out to that guy.
Shout out to him, man. They say stoners never make it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So much. So, Kyle comes on, and he's the true fan to me. He is what every PlayStation diehard fan should be at his heart. And, like, never own an Xbox until the Xbox One X, like the white edition. He owned it for like a year. He's like, all right. So, like, he's been a PlayStation guy at heart, and he's just so pure. Like, again, like, it's that kind-hearted energy that I just dug. And so when I invited him back on in December to talk about his adventures into PSX, I found that, yeah, this is the guy I wanted to offer a job to. And so, he gladly accepted, and in January of 2018, I think January 10th or 12th, that's when the trophy room was born. We totally redesigned it. We got a new feed, everything. And it's all thanks to Kyle for the name, because I love that name. I don't know if I could curse, but I'm doing it. So
go for it, man.
Go for it.
So like he is instrumental in that way. And ever since 2018 with the trophy room, it's snowballed into this once a week thing to us really having, I think, hitting our stride in 2019. A lot of people don't know, like, the first year is really where you're learning. Unless you have a production background, you're really just going by the seat of your pants here. And, when we hit our stride in 2019, that's when I actually stopped doing YouTube, because I just liked having conversations rather than speaking on a podium. And this year, 2020, in 2020, we totally rebranded even the YouTube channel to being the Trophy Room. because that's just what everybody knows of us. So, yeah, now from a little show that was a little less than an hour long every week, we've ballooned into this really awesome, well functioning, well oiled machine that each and every week we're sitting down, we're talking about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation, but really having an honest conversation about the ecosystem. And like we were talking about before the show started, talking about that ecosystem and not having a fanboy conversation, having a, a fan conversation
Yeah, definitely.
of we appreciate PlayStation, but we love the developers and people that make these games possible regardless of platform. So that's really how the trophy room came to be, and that's why it's so nuts because this show was birthed out of the death of another, and so to have Greg Miller on the show, the guy that inspired me to do this dumb thing called podcasting, was absolutely surreal, and how
Yeah.
nervous I was palpable.
It's like literally things coming full circle. That's really crazy.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
that's exactly what it is. It's all it was all full circle, and it's been it's been a wild ride, and we're lucky to have the amazing community that we have on the trophy room, where it is truly diverse and inclusive, and just a really great place to just stop by and talk video games. And sometimes we got to sit down, we got to be real with people, and we got to say, like Black Lives Matter and all that, because we understand that people, though we may not have all the answers to things that are going on in this world, that people need to be assured that they're in a community that's going to accept them, love them for who they are. That's also one of our, I think, main mission statements, is really to create an unapologetically safe space for folks to talk about games without having fear of, of the dumb name calling or fanboy bullcrap that goes around. So it's really awesome to see that idea has really hit its stride in the last few months, and seeing people come together and form all these bonds over our dumb little show on the internet, it means the world to me, man.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I feel like to one of your earlier points, like the whole thing about us, or just that first year still trying to figure things out. Like I feel like that really resonates with us because we're only 12 episodes in, and we're we're still trying to put together like a consistent like thumbnail, still trying to figure out like what we want that to look like.
Oh, that'll never change. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like yeah, I definitely see that. It's really, this is more than anything a learning process, just to see what sticks, what works, what doesn't work, and yeah, it's really about the journey. And I asked you that question because like I'm always fascinated to see how these things are kind of like incubated and then eventually become reality, because it's always a different story for everybody, right? Like whether you're asking kind of funny games or easy allies or what's good games or whatever, it's always fascinating to see like how these things really start, and sort of like the genesis of their idea for branching off and creating a podcast in the first place.
Yeah, and all those like podcasts that you named are my go-to podcasts for inspiration.
Yeah, mine
You
too, for
know,
sure.
yeah, like those are the people that you want to follow and take some notes from. My one thing, like, you know, I get asked a lot to be on a lot of podcasts that are like, "Hey, we're on episode 2, or we're episode 3," and I always go back to people because I hate saying no, and B, I always tell people make it to episode 7, because if you make it to episode 7, that's where like 70 podcasts fall out, even more so. It's
Oh
like
wow.
people see, oh my God, this is way too hard to
Interesting.
do. Yeah, and and they drop out. And I always say, make it to episode 7, come back to me, and then we'll plan something out, because it's a lot more difficult than it is. And like when we mention a kind of funny games or what's good games, or you name the big ticket podcast, you expect like, oh, we're gonna hit like 10,000 listeners in 2 weeks, and that is not the case. And so like, you know, it's I always say that those are the inspirations, they're never the goal. And so, like, for me, I take a look at, like, I want to have a real conversation the way that Andrea Renee or Greg Miller have those real conversations. But I always take my inspirations, like, my true how I want the show to kind of feel, from late night. I love late night. Like, you give me anybody but Jimmy Fallon, and I'm going to dig that a lot. Big inspiration is Conan. So, like, when I'm
Oh yeah,
hosting,
yeah.
I really want to have a Conan and Andy Richter type of vibe when they loosen their ties type of talk, and that's really what I try to go by. It's like, to me, podcast is late night. Podcast is one big monologue that's structured, and that's what I'm always trying to achieve that. And there are good nights where I feel like I do, and there's bad nights for sure. But yeah, that's what my truest inspiration of trying to be. Because if I'm just being Greg Miller, well, there's a Greg Miller out there. I can't be that man. You
No,
know,
yeah, exactly. No,
it's
that
trying
makes a
to
ton of sense.
Yeah,
yeah,
be the
it's
best you that you can be.
exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much the trophy room in a nutshell, man.
No, no, I agree. I agree with that sentiment just because I heard Hip Hop Gamer say this before. He used this term. I love the way he phrased it, where a lot of these podcasts are now are getting more notoriety. Have sort of like a barbershop talk. It's not really just like a
Yeah.
PR manager talking to the social media guy, also talking to a developer. It's literally gamers talking to each other the way that friends would talk to each other in a regular party chat. And there's some form of genuine good-heartedness about that, right? Like you just feel like you're
That's
around a
authentic.
good around of friends.
Yeah, and that's how it should feel. Like I love the barber shop vibe, because like when I'm listening to an Iron Lords, that's the vibe I'm getting, man. It's like
Yeah,
there's like this communal vibe that when you're there, everybody's talking bullshit with each other, busting each other's chops. That's
yeah.
what makes them so great. Is because you'll always have that crazy guy in the barber shop like King, you know. I
Oh
love
Yeah,
yeah,
that, man.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You'll always have a cognito in there talking the sense, make it running the show, and that's what I love about them. That's a really great example by Hip Hop Gamer. It is the sense of like, yeah, I'm with my friends, or like I'm at the barber shop, and we're just all BSing with each other. That's what the community vibe should be. For real, it should be a barbershop vibe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it absolutely should feel like just a normal sort of like party chat, but just like, someone pressed record, this time. That's basically like the only difference. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's always a hard thing too, because like you want to be like, all right, we're just pressing record, but then at the same exact time, like I'll tell people when we have guests on, which is usually rare on the trophy room, but we'll be like, okay, so here's how long I want this conversation around, this conversation around, this conversation around. So it's like, it's always the hard thing to try to be as organic as possible,
Yeah.
while at that same time having the balance of structure between it as well.
Yeah.
It's so much harder than it looks, for
For
sure.
sure, and it's always kind of like, so like for me, for instance, it's always tough trying to like gauge, like, okay, when should we move on from this topic? Like, I don't want to cut anybody off and move on too fast or anything like that. Like, yeah, like
Absolutely.
that point of things feeling organic is always like a tough sort of like balance or line to walk. Because you do want to keep things moving, but at the same time, you don't want to like sort of ruin the conversation that's happening.
Absolutely. And there'll be times where you get off and you're like, ah, shit, I forgot to ask this thing. But
Yeah,
that's how podcasts should feel, though. You don't really necessarily need to hit every topic. You just need to make sure you had a good conversation.
yeah,
So like there'll be a time where I listen to Beyond and all that after our shows run, so I don't have I don't have like an idea from someone else, pop in my head and call it my own. But like when I'm listening to a Beyond and I'm like, oh shit, that was a great point by Altano there, and I'm like, oh well, that's Altano's point. That's not our point. And when you take a look at that our conversation, it's like, oh yeah, it's different because it's a different perspective, and that's what makes us so special, I think.
Yeah, definitely,
Love it.
without a doubt. So like you touched on Greg Miller, and like me and Macho were talking about this, like, right, man? Like Macho, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, just like I mean, that's again, that's like a ace in the hole kind of guess, man.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Greg Miller, he has a pretty resounding name in the industry. Ever since his early days on Beyond to growing into IGN and all that, and then to Kind of Funny now, and now dude's gonna be a dad. For people that have been following him for
Mhm.
10 plus years, that's insane. So, what was it like establishing that connection, sending that DM or that email, and him responding, be like, yeah, let's do this day.
Dude, okay, so here's how I found out. Kyle is huge in the Kind of Funny community, and they had this like little like Secret Santa thing, and he got Greg Miller as his Secret Santa, Greg's like, I see you do a PlayStation podcast. I'm gonna be on that show,
What?
and he's like, and you're going to be on PS I Love You,
Oh
and
crap.
and I was like, oh shit, and when Kyle showed me this. Kyle's like, I'm showing you this. You can't tell a goddamn soul. I suck at secrets. I'm awful at them. They give me anxiety. And when he told me that, I was like, oh shit, how can I hold this in? So like, I had to just tell one other person, or else I'd explode. So, but when that night happened, um, it was funny because the day after, that's when I got COVID. Like I was getting
Oh.
sick, and I was like, "Oh, I think this is it." So like, I'm like on my deathbed, and real talk, I was really fucked up, and I was just like, "Dude, I gotta make it. I'm gonna interview Greg Miller." It's one of my things. Like, I'm not gonna get the greatest news of this podcast, and then like a week later, just bite the bullet. That sucks. So like, that was one thing. We knew in December, and then we kind of announced it a little bit in January, but we didn't get a firm date, and so it became real at around April or late March. Kyle's like, okay, so he's coming on in May, and I'm like, okay. And my whole big anxiety about it is not only is he has a name and a brand to him. It's okay. This is Kyle's thing, and I can't make it the Greg and Joe show. And my nervousness was I'm not going to have Kyle a lot talking because Kyle likes to sometimes just sit back and relax and just let things happen. And I'm like, and where I want him to be front and center on this. So that was the thing I was actually freaking out the most about. It's not just like having Greg on, but making sure that Kyle doesn't feel ignored because this is his thing.
Yeah.
So when we finally had Greg on, of course, I'm nervous as all hell. This is a man with 1 million followers on Twitter. I ain't never met one of those before. So
They're a
it's
rare
like,
breed. A rare breed, dude.
yes. So, he tells us about 10 minutes beforehand. He's like, hey, listen, something has come up. You got me for an hour. And we're like, okay, cool. And then he drops in another 5 minutes. I'm like, can you record locally? I tell him all about the show as fast as I can. And I'm just like, we had no time to prep. There was no like usually if we have like a big ish guest on, I'm not normally nervous, but I want to break the ice with them for the like 10
Yeah.
minutes before record, so that you kind of establish how the conversation could roll out, so that while you're podcasting, and you just have a normalish feel. You get the butterflies out. So we didn't have that. So like everything you saw was just Joe first take, and like the intro alone. I made that thing. It usually is 2 minutes. I made that. I talked so fast. It was like under a minute, and it was semi nerve wracking. And I remember bringing Kyle in and still feeling like I didn't get him to talk enough, but people definitely reassured me of that. But I still am not as I'm not 100% assured. But you know, I I remember having a few points that piqued Greg's eyebrow up a little bit. I was like, okay, okay, he's understanding what the show is, and it's not we're sitting down to interview Greg Miller. It is we're sitting down and having a conversation show.
Yeah.
And when I had to edit one part out because I was just like, okay, so let's stop right here. We're going to talk about, just a rapid fire question for you, Greg. We'll get you out of here. And then right when we were done with all the little rapid fire questions, which, by the way, when he's like, we got an hour, we're like, okay, we have to. I just made these show notes. It took me like all week, and I got to file them down and take questions in and out. Excuse me. So, it was so nerve-wracking that by the end of it, when I was like, okay, and recording, I put my head down to my desk. I was like, did I do good, you guys?
Absolutely. It's
Did I
like
do
taking
good?
SATs or something.
Yeah. And with Greg in the room, Greg's like, you did good, Joe. You did great. What are you talking about? You did great, Joe. I was like, okay, thank you, guy that inspired me.
No, that's awesome, man. That's really cool.
No, yeah.
Yeah, man. It was wild. It is one of those once in a lifetime things, and I'm so glad. Hopefully, there's some bigger things in the pipeline as well. So I'm really excited about the future of this whole podcast.
Definitely. And like I would assume that like how you were talking about those nerves before the conversation kind of started, and then the nerves kind of like adding or the fact that you only had him on there for an hour adding to the nerves that were already there. But once you actually start getting to it and picking his brain a little bit and the conversation starts flowing, I would assume that those nerves possibly settled down a little bit, that you got once you got comfortable, you were like, okay, this is fine now.
You know what it was? I was like, oh, thank God. When he announced that he had a kid, or he's having a kid, I was like, whew, thank God I know what the first question is. Okay, we're good.
Fair point.
How did that happen, Greg?
How does it work? I've heard so many things. But like, because it was the point of, oh, this adds humanity to this figure that I've put on this pedestal for so long. And so that first question of like, we know your history. You didn't want to be a papa. Now you're a papa. What's that feeling like to you? It is a great point of like breaking that ice.
Yeah.
And adding the little like funny joke that I had of like, okay, so y'all are pregnant, Andrea's pregnant, Jeff Gersman's wife's pregnant. What are you trying to do? Build the Illuminati of podcasts?
Yeah.
That was the joke I had planned. I was like, nailed it. Chuckle that. That's what I needed. So yeah, it's again, it's been an experience, and it's all because of Kyle. It really is. I can't stress it enough. He is the greatest co-host that I can ever ask for. He adds the humanity to me when I get all numberies and figures and facts and whatnot. He really adds that layer of humanity
so
that I think we need.
That means, well, I'm gonna need you to bring in a guest like Greg Miller. All right, man.
All right, I'm on it. If I'm being real, I'm always on Twitch. I'm always scouring. I'm always, involving myself in communities. So.
Slide in those DMs, man. It's easy. It's easy.
Yeah. Easy peasy. I'll get you. Give me a month.
So like I feel like I gotta ask the sort of I don't know, sort of I don't want to say generic because it's kind of like downplaying it, but I feel like I gotta ask the question: what is give me the best PlayStation console of all time, and then also your favorite PlayStation console of all time.
Or favorite PlayStation game, you mean?
Yeah.
Sure, either or.
Yeah. Let me see. I know, Hector, you're Puerto Rican, correct?
Yes, sir.
I got a Puerto Rican family yelling downstairs. They're like, Joe, and I'm like,
But you know, man, you know, if you tell them that they're yelling, you're gonna be like, no, I'm just talking loudly.
Give me 1 minute. You guys discuss this amongst yourselves. 1 sec.
Okay. Oh
no, I completely like sympathize with him because I tell the same thing to my mom where every time like she's she's literally yelling, right? And then every time, like, Mom, you don't need to yell. And then she's like, I'm not yelling, I'm talking loudly. I'm just like, is
Bro.
that? It's like a common Puerto
That's
Rican thing, bro.
Yeah,
that's in
definitely.
in my house. It's my dad. Whenever he's on the phone, he
Yeah.
never talks. Never. He just like, yeah. What is
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I'm like, are you
Bro,
talking to the neighbors too, bro? Like,
bro,
Hi.
he can't hear you through the phone.
Hello. I'm
hey,
back. So, for best PlayStation console of all time, I'm gonna be the generic one. And I know it's like recency bias, but I truly believe the PlayStation 4 is
Mm,
probably my favorite console. And it's a lot of things. Like I made a podcast about it,
right.
but we also made that podcast because I really wanted to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn and all these
Mm,
great first parties that were coming out of PlayStation. But like when I think about it, like we got Bloodborne, we got God of War, we got Uncharted, we got Horizon, we got Ghost of Tsushima, we got The Last of Us Part 2, Spider-Man. Like there were so many, and there are so many great games between those platforms.
yeah.
And so that's the thing that I think it's definitely the PlayStation 4. I know when I say that, there's a huge catalog of PS2 games that I'm just ignoring, but the one thing that I always hear when people talk about this laundry list of games that they played during the fifth generation, I'm just like, dude, how white were your parents? Because that's some rich money shit. You're playing all of these games. Like, I
man, it's
was,
blockbuster money. It's blockbuster money.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
blockbuster money for sure. But like for me, I was like, dude, I was fucking 12. Like, what are you talking
Uh,
about? Metal Gear Solid. I was 13 when the like Gran Turismo came out on PS2. What are you talking about? So, yeah, that definitely the PlayStation 4 is my favorite console. When we're talking favorite game, that's where we get into a different ball of wax. Because I have a fake one and well, it's a fake real one. But I got an obvious one, and I think it's obvious for me. That is, and guys, I don't know if you know this, but it's been 2,241 days since the original launch of Bloodborne. I didn't
Yes,
just Google
sir.
search it. That's just a fact.
Yes,
Um,
baby.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it.
Bloodborne Bloodborne is that game, man. It is the game that I was always scared of Soulsborne games, but that trailer was something else. I was like, this is something that like I never knew I loved the vibe of like this
Right.
Victorian Cthulhu horror thing,
Yeah.
and at the same exact time, I never was into the Dark Souls games because they were too hard. At least that's what people tell me they are. And for me, Bloodborne was like, oh shit, I don't just love this game, I adore this game. And I've been neglecting so many other games just because of their genre. So Bloodborne means a lot because it really showed me that, oh, I have to go and do like I gotta play more not just of these games but like games outside my wheelhouse. That's why I'm very much like,
Definitely.
you put any controller or in my hand or any game on the screen, I'm gonna try to play it and really enjoy my
Nice.
time with it.
No,
So
I
Bloodborne is the feels, but
yeah.
if we're going like actual factuals on it, we're gonna be doing God of War.
Ooh.
God of War 2018. God of War 2018 is a perfect video game.
Mm.
Like I don't throw around the word perfect often
I don't throw
or
around
ever.
that lightly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is it's something that like when I think of a 10 is a masterpiece. It's going to define a generation. It doesn't mean that there's no flaws. God of War, I don't have any flaws with it. There is not one thing that I wish they did differently on. Everything felt so good. And if there is a series that I never liked, it was God of War. And why? Because I
Interesting.
hated Kratos. I hated him, and he was just so one note and flat to me. And so for me, it didn't just like I'm like a what second generation. My father came off the boat with $20 in his pocket from Spain because he loved a Puerto Rican woman so much that he moved across seas to be with her. There's a lot of parallels for God of War for me in terms of what it's like. Not just like because I get this like, oh, it's just like, oh, you're a cis white dude. It's like, no, it's like My father is an immigrant from this country who literally self-taught himself how to read, write, and speak English. And there's a scene in God of War where multiple, but like Atreus is reading to Kratos because he doesn't
Yeah.
know how. I did that when I was 7, and you know, I got into something a little Twitter spat with someone about it, where it's just like, oh, God of War is just for cis white dudes. I'm like, no, shut your mouth. It's not about that. You could be very if you want to be reductive, you can say that, but there is something that speaks deeper here. And it's about tackling its past while at the same time how do you make a future for the next generation. There's something to speak to that, and you know, having the moments of you know, Atreus yelling at Kratos, talking about how you could be so stoic, and you know, mom just died. Why are you like this? I've had those fights, and I felt like Cory Barlog was in the room at the worst moments of you know, my father's or my memories of my father. He's still alive, by the way. And the best memories that I have of my father. And that game legitimately changed the way I think about my father, and gave me a respect for him that I didn't, an extra layer of respect, I think, for my father that I did not have until playing that game fully. That even,
That's fantastic. Wow.
yeah. So like, even knowing that we don't connect at all, we like he loves a good football. I fucking don't like sports at all. He's stoic. I'm a little stoic, but you know, he I know he would go to hell and back for me.
Yeah.
And that is what that game did. So that game is legitimately perfect.
Literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And
Yeah, no, that's like it. I feel like we don't see it enough sometimes, where it's just like the story of a father and a son, and that bond that
Yeah.
happens there, that grows. And guys, yeah, I agree with you. God of War is like one of those games. God of War 2018 is just one of those games that just tells that story flawlessly.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
definitely.
really does.
Yeah.
It's it's a powerful game.
And-
I really dug it.
Like I feel like that you know, you were saying the Twitter spat with someone saying that it was just a game for cis white males or whatever. And I feel like that couldn't be further from the truth. Like maybe like you could get away with that, you know, referring to the classic trilogy of games, but like this 2018 game was just like I feel like that the main central theme of that game was this sort of idea of family, and I feel like that speaks to everyone. So like just saying that, you know, this is a game only for cis white males is yeah, I don't know, that I couldn't disagree with that more.
It's belittling
Yeah.
the game itself. That's
It is.
it's what it is. Really, I think that they're belittling the game without realizing it, and I don't know. Gaming's for everybody, and that's where it comes in.
Yeah, and then listen, we're all a bunch of dudes here, right? So like, we're
Yeah.
coming at it through our perspective, and I understand they're right to have their perspective as well. But like, there is more to games than just the simplicity of pressing a button. And the fact that we're getting these games that hit such emotional, you know, resonance with all of us,
Yeah.
is something. And at the same exact time, a game doesn't have to speak for everyone. And when games usually don't speak to everyone is when they're at their best,
Exactly.
because they're not here to please everyone.
Yep.
You know, we've seen crowd pleasers. They're not great. You get the sampler at Applebee's. It sucks. Everybody really just wanted the goddamn, you know,
Mozzarella sticks, yeah,
mozzarella sticks,
we tell everyone.
Exactly.
That's all. So when you give the table the mozzies, they don't care
Yeah.
about anything else. It's a good time.
Exactly.
Games need to be more like mozzarella sticks.
I love that analogy, by the way. That's fantastic. I truly speak to that. I mean, I was thinking more TGIF Fridays, but you know, we'll go with Applebee's. It's okay.
Oh,
Man,
dude.
I don't know why my mind was like going towards like the McRib or something like that. Like
The McRib knows what it is. It's not
Exactly.
here to please most people.
right.
It's
Right.
got
not- it's-
sulfur cushion in its meat, but god damn it.
You'll eat it.
It's not gonna please your stomach or your butt. It's
Right.
just how it is.
Exactly.
Like you'll eat it, but you're not gonna be happy about
man.
it, basically.
Pretty much.
Man.
Self-loathing food. There you go.
Exactly.
There you
So, Macho, Walt, do you guys want to run down your, favorite games of all time, specifically like console and then game of all time?
I'll go first. So if we go console, I'm a man of all sides, right? I enjoy every single spectrum. Let's talk first PlayStation because this is a PlayStation podcast. Favorite PlayStation console. My first console for PlayStation was PS3. I don't have a PS5, and I've only had a PS4 and PS3, so I only boil it down to two, right? My first console was Nintendo. I never experienced PlayStation 1 or 2. My favorite PlayStation console would be the PlayStation 4 Pro, not the base console, specifically the Pro, because it is
the hamburger console.
The hamburger console, man. It's got all the meats. It's got all the ingredients. It has for its moment. Right now, the PS5 is the answer, but right now, at least, that's what I'm using. The amount of games, the library of games, the power it has that it's not breaking any barriers, but it's enough for it to not constantly break down on me like my previous base PS4. In terms of overall, honestly, I'd have to go with a Nintendo Switch. That's my all-time out of every console, and that's for the simple fact that there's three things. Nostalgia, because it literally has every video game I ever played in my childhood because I was purely Nintendo. And I have memories of it with my sister's now passed away ex-boyfriend, which he was basically a big brother to me. There's a lot of games that we played together on the game. I somehow, it reminds me of those moments, and I can still remember him that way. Also with my grandmother, she also passed away. I also have memories with her being in the room and she talking me through the game and asking all sorts of questions, and it just brings me all those memories back. Second, it's portable. I can take it anywhere. That's fantastic. PlayStation doesn't have that. It has the Vita, but who's talking about the Vita now? Vita has great games, great old games, but not everyone talks about the Vita. And third,
I was gonna say something, but you just kind of hit my point, so never mind.
Yeah. And people don't talk about it, but it's a fantastic handheld console, I think. And third, dude, Nintendo knows how to make great first-party games. They make the best gamey games, the best classics, the best they will leave their footprint until video games are no more. And I love every single of their first properties, every single Mario, all the Animal Crossings, they're all just pure fun. And that's what I mostly look in a game, fun. Not saying PlayStation doesn't have it, but PlayStation has that extra layer of a lot of the games have that narrative that's so groundbreaking or so demanding emotionally that I have to be sometimes in the mood to play it. Like Last of Us 2, I can't just sit around and play, just watch the cutscenes. Sometimes I have to be ready because they're brutal and very gritty and very dark and very real. Now we're talking games. Oh man, there's so many, man. But honestly, I think I said it already a few weeks ago, but I don't think it's changed. It has to be Persona 5. It still is Persona 5, and it'll be for a while. And mind you, I adore God of War, I adore Bloodborne, Horizon, all the exclusives, I adore them. But Persona 5, the amount of parasocial interactions I had in that game, the angry I got, the emotional I got, I felt betrayed by Akechi. I felt it. I felt the whole game, and I came out of it extremely bittersweet, with a bittersweet taste in my mouth, because I just did not want it to end. I wanted to keep following this group of high schoolers and their way into the college world and see what they become. And I actually I saw them as my own best friends, and it was a fascinating experience. and just everything about that game is incredible. But if I had to boil it down, yeah, it'd be Persona 5. Close second, and this is not because BadBit said it and I don't want to appease to him, but I am a masochist at times, and if there's a game that brought that...
Whoa.
Wait, video game.
okay. Just making sure.
Even Sekiro didn't bring that like flavor to the game. Bloodborne just has this perfect concoction of difficulty, ambiance, characters, even combat, boss fights, the lore. Everything just comes together perfectly. I adore that game. So that's a close second. I always have like top 3, and then 3 probably be Witcher 3.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely, Persona 5, man. What a game, man. Macho, before you get in here, I just wanna Logic Wins in the chat says that speaking on this point of us talking about our favorite consoles and whatnot, he said that he used to be a huge PlayStation fan, but he wasn't a fan of the PS4 era, specifically because Sony stopped making those quote-unquote gamey titles like a Warhawk and a Resistance. And I'll say, get yourself a PS5, man. Returnal is the most gamey, quote-unquote gamey game that Sony has made in a while, if that's what you're looking, or if that's your sort of hang up on Sony.
Yeah, they definitely got weird.
Yeah, for sure.
In the best ways.
Exactly.
I got issues with Returnal because goddamn bug trophy. Oh, it really.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
but
I know that sucks, man.
That aside, though, it's still my game of the year right now.
Same here, man.
That story is.
Yes.
Nuts.
Okay.
Along with like once you speak that game's language, oh my god,
dude,
the game is on another level.
I can't. I hope we can get into that a little bit later, because I finished it like last week, and yeah, I have the same feelings towards it. Macho, why don't you go ahead and tell us favorite console and favorite game of all time?
Yeah, I'll break it down quickly. Favorite console, because they kind of go hand in hand, really. So my favorite console has to be the PS2, and that's because it gave me my childhood dream game, and that's Kingdom Hearts. Growing up with a sister that was heavy into Broadway and Disney and musicals, I grew up as a Disney kid. Hercules, Tarzan, Lion King. All those great movies I just grew up with. So to see that there was a video game, and I was like 7 years old at this time, to see there was a video game,
mind
right?
blown.
Yeah, that you can actually go around with these characters. That's like what I've always wanted since I went to Disney World for the first time at 4 years old. So that just like blew my mind when I first played it. But I don't think I really fell head over heels for games until Kingdom Hearts 2. Where it took that same concept and had that same flair of a Kingdom Hearts game, but upped it to 11 with the combat and the story itself. People make fun of the story, which is, it's fine, it's their prerogative, but to me that was like a real like moment where I was like, this game is making me feel something. This game is making me love the characters and the pacing and the story, and see that there's a lot more to it. It was the first game that I did an all-nighter for. When I was like 8 years old when it first came out, and I remember this specifically because I was playing and I was trying to beat this really hard boss. It was Zaldin. Zaldin's everybody's kind of like hard boss back then. And then it was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I see the sun coming up, and I hear my mom coming downstairs. So I immediately pause the game and act like I'm sleeping on the couch. that I just fell asleep, and then she comes, she's like, "Were you playing all night?" And I was like, "What? Huh? Oh no, I think I fell asleep."
Your eye twitching.
Yeah. And then she was like, "Whatever," and she went back upstairs. I just kept playing. So like, it has to be the PS2, and just Kingdom Hearts 2 being like my favorite game of all time. Just man, it's fun times. I miss those days. I miss those days for sure.
Definitely.
Still the best Kingdom Hearts. That one's still the best game
Yes.
on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree.
No,
I agree.
I love how that went hand in hand together because I think mine is basically gonna be the same thing. Although I do want to give some love to the PS2 as well because obviously that for me that was that console was the Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper sort of machine for me. Like those were my games back then, man. And I adore those titles. And also, I don't know why, man. Like, definitely, my tastes in gaming have evolved over time. But the PS2 and like the GameCube, that era, I was just like, I was buying every single trash, like,
Same.
Nickelodeon or the Cartoon
Jimmy Neutron.
Network. Yeah, like
Movie games. Yeah.
cartoon show adaptation, those bad ones by like Activision and whatnot. Like I was playing all that were probably like, let's be honest, like a 62 on Metacritic, but I was buying them anyway for whatever reason, and finding
Oh,
enjoyment
that's
in
better
them.
than a 5.
Yeah, so like yeah, that console was just like so much of that. But then of course, the classics with Metal Gear, even though I was like what, 10 years old, not understanding what the hell was going on, but I was playing them anyway.
We still don't. We still don't. Yeah.
True, very true. Obviously Tony Hawk as well was that for that console.
Mm.
But yeah, man, the library. Obviously, it's a legendary library. And then the PS4 would probably be my favorite console, just because like I was, I had a job at that point, so I was finally able to like buy, games sort of like on my own terms and whatnot. And so the PS4 was probably the era where I was probably playing more games than ever before. And sort of how BadBit was talking about Bloodborne being the gateway for him of not just trying Souls games, but just expanding his horizons and trying out more genres in general. The PS4 was that console for me. Not just sticking to like the action adventure titles that I did with the PS3, but playing more indies, playing more JRPGs than ever before. Finally diving into Souls games. The PS4 was that
And Yakuza.
console. Yeah, and Yakuza as well, jumping into those. Yeah, it was really just like there's so much variety on that console for me, and then obviously the first party has been well documented and just in this conversation alone, so I won't really get into that too much. But my favorite game of all time came from the PS4 era, and you guys probably saw this coming, but it's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Like, come on, man, that game I owe so much of myself to that game. Just in after finishing that first playthrough, I immediately went and read all the books, and the author of those books, the creator of The Witcher, Andrzej Sapkowski, he is sort of the reason why I started writing, why I got into creative writing, and then eventually writing about games as well. So without that game, I'm not sure if I would ever get into writing or reading and sort of those big passions that I have right now. Um,
Yeah.
but
I do
yeah,
think a game would have done that eventually to you. It's just that Witcher 3 happened to be that one to pull it out, you know? You had that passion. It just needed to be nurtured by something and like be awoken by something, you know?
sure, possibly, yeah. I mean, maybe Last of Us Part Two might have done that. Maybe Returnal might have
Maybe.
been the one to do that.
Eventually PlayStation was gonna be like, hey, gotta wake up, man. Let's get to writing. You know?
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, I mean, just the characters. It's specifically like the characters of that game. Like they feel like real people who have like real backstories and real quirks and are have their own motivations and things going on that make them human and distinct from one another. And of course the side quests that many game companies like Ubisoft are still trying to chase that sort of quality in side quests. I feel like that's the bar that people are still trying to sort of reach nowadays. Um, But yeah, that game top to bottom is still incredible. I've beaten it like 5 times I think, and I'm waiting for that PS5 upgrade or next gen upgrade or whatever, so I can dive back in. So yeah, definitely Witcher 3 and the PS4 would be my picks without a doubt. I'm excited for the PS5, man. I'm excited to see what they got in store, man. And I guess that sort of leads into this Herman Holst or sort of this Wired article just in general. And what is it with Sony and Wired articles, man? Right? Like, because didn't they initially sort of like revealed the PS5 through Wired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, about like what is this console going to kind of look like, or what are they trying to achieve? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So this definitely isn't the first time that they've gone through Wired, but so yeah,
It's
they
wired in
were
GQ, man. It's wired in GQ.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
are the
for
main
sure.
headlines for games, apparently.
They should come to lordsofgaming.net and get an interview with us, man. So in speaking to Wired, they actually spoke to a couple people. They spoke to Ember Lab, Angie Smets from Gorilla, Jim Ryan, who this was so funny that they added this in the article. They were like, one of the lines was like, in talking to Jim Ryan through Zoom, who just got his second vaccination, by the way. I was like, okay, interesting, I guess.
so,
Meaning
so
he's
we
ready
know
to party.
exactly. You know he's riding the wave right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, and of course, one of the other people that they talked to was head of Worldwide Studios, Herman Holst, and he was talking about sort of PlayStation's slate. In talking to Wired, he said that the sort of SIE group, PlayStation Studios, has more than 25 titles in development for the PS5, and nearly half of them are entirely new IP. Quote unquote, there's an incredible amount of variety originating from different regions, big, small, different games. Yeah, so I just want to kind of gauge the panel here. Like, this is I feel like I don't think this is obviously I don't think this is like in direct sort of response to the Schreier article, but at the same time, I think the timing is kind of nice to just kind of have that reassurance that like, hey, PlayStation is still committed to new experiences, a wide breadth of experiences on the console, and they're not just these big AAA titles that people were kind of concerned over. That no, these games are going to not only come from different regions, different parts of the world, created by people of different walks of life, but they're also going to be games of different shapes and sizes, from AA, AAA, whatever it may be. They're definitely investing in a wide variety of games. So yeah, I just wanted to see what the panel thought about this number of 25 games created underneath the PlayStation Studios umbrella, and about half of them being new IPs.
Yeah, let's Mr. Babbitt go first.
So I think this is an indirect reference to Schreier's article, and also trying to dissipate the kind of heat that they've been getting the past few weeks, talking about where are the games, PlayStation? We're seeing all these big moves from Microsoft. What are you doing for me lately? Which is a lot of casual gamers, or even just gamers in general, are like that. We see one person doing something. What's your answer to it? We talked a little bit before the show about that, or actually during the show about that, and this is them kind of dissipating that heat a little bit, saying, "Hey, listen, we got stuff cooking. Don't worry." And at the same exact time, not spoiling it, because you got Ratchet you need to do previews for, and at the same exact time you got your own show in probably January, or sorry, June or July, that you're making as well. So I think this was a good way of Herman to get out in front of everyone and just say, listen, here's what we're making. and we're tired of people saying we're risk averse.
Right.
Because we need to I think that's the one thing they wanted to dispel a lot of. When you see the verbiage of what like Herman Hulse is kind of saying, it's really kind of, it is kind of talking about that Schreier article of like, no. We got 25 games in the pipeline solely for the PlayStation 5, and they're big games, they're small games, they're AA, they're AAA, they're all types of A's, and they're coming to the PlayStation 5. We're bringing the heat. Just because Xbox got Bethesda doesn't mean we're sitting backward doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's really awesome to see some of their partners come out and say, no, we're working on stuff like, Josh Greer from Ember Labs, I believe, saying
That was so
listen,
exciting.
yeah, like we got game number 2 we're already working on.
Yeah.
And like that's awesome. So like, you got Haven Studios, you got, Firewalk Studios as well. These are some talented industry vets. PlayStation's trying to tell people, we're going to have the big games, we're going to have the small games, we're going to have different sizes. And hopefully you're going to vibe with them, and hopefully they're not just third person, over the shoulder, open world games, that they could be something more. And even, I believe they referenced Returnal in there, but like,
Yeah.
seeing Housemarque with Returnal, it's a totally different game than what we expect PlayStation to make, albeit third person, but it is an action, bullet hell game.
Yeah.
That is absolutely wild. Told in a series like Memento is something you don't see from video games. Like, how many AAA roguelikes have we seen? The answer is none.
I can't think of any.
And so, yeah, this article really does say, hey, we're PlayStation. We're still taking risks. We're still betting on smaller teams, and we're going to have the games that you know and love. There is a fine balance you have to do to reassure people that Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man, Uncharted, Last of Us are going to have sequels, while at the same exact time reassuring fans that we're not going to be a Halo, Forza, Gears factory as well, that we're going to let these studios get weird and stretch their legs. So what it really seems like to me is Jim Ryan is the guy that counts the beans. This is, Herman Hulse is the guy that makes them. Like, this is a guy that's going to hopefully, bolster the creativity out of PlayStation while you have the guy at the business end. Because I think what PlayStation knows is that they need to broaden out the portfolio of what their games offer currently. So this is a really awesome article, man. I'm really optimistic looking at this and reading it as well. It is a PR piece. Like, this is a very PR-y. The reason why you go to Wired is because they're not GameSpot or IGN. Those people are going to cover it.
Yeah.
So you kind of get an ecosystem outside your own, and it makes you a little bit more unique in that sense. For better or for worse. And you also get the whole, like, IGN's just bought out by PlayStation out of the way. You get this third-party intermediary kind of making the news, and then us speculating on it afterwards. It's PlayStation's PR team is oddly brilliant at times, and they're very hot and cold. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of times they're very robotic with looking at their social media feed, but like, they know. They just know what's going to track. It's nuts.
Yeah, they're very silent and deadly. It's like from what I've seen. They went from being pretty open during the PS4 era to now just being kind of like, we'll talk when we're ready.
Yeah. And they've really taken the mantra, and like, people loved it in the beginning, but now they're like, okay, Sony, start talking. They've really taken the mantra of like, dude, let the games talk.
Exactly.
Why do I need to, like, honest to goodness, why does Jim Ryan need to go out there and act like your best friend? When, like, Jim Ryan knows he's got all these really great games that people are going to pay for, And the fact of the matter is you don't. You can be cold and calculating. And again, let the games do the talking. So, yeah.
Yeah, and they're talking real loud. They're speaking in multiple languages and like whatever you want to say, whatever the language they want to speak, whether it's $60, $70, whether it's a AAA roguelike or roguelike action game, whatever the case may be. Yeah, they're definitely doing the talking.
Yeah, for sure. So, Macho, what are your thoughts on this?
It's another feather to add to your cap, Jay.
Why is
Because,
that? Why is that, huh?
because, why do I have to answer that? I'm not going to answer this. I'm not trying. No,
Come on,
because like I mean,
give me my flowers, my roses, or whatever. No, I'm kidding.
because no, because I mean, to your credit though, we did make the point earlier in previous podcasts, just like at least my worry of like, I don't want to see a lack of diversity in their lineup because that can definitely pigeonhole you. We've seen that before, how that can kind of be your crutch. So, and with not seeing stuff for quite a bit, and I think it wasn't really just not seeing things, which is mostly like the bad news that was just coupled one after another that kind of felt
Yeah,
like, all right, what's really going on? And the one thing that worried me the most was the whole PSN gonna close for legacy consoles because I love my old games. I literally just bought Parasite Eve, and the Castlevania collection. So like I'm always giving like a reason to go back to old games. So that was for me. I was just like, all right, that's crazy. But thankfully, we're seeing like this turnaround with the last couple of weeks. I think this one we have right here, where they have like 25 games lined up for PS5, is, I mean, color me excited, dude. Like, come
yeah,
on, like bring them on. It's gonna be really cool. Here I was worried about like, oh man, all I'm gonna play all I'm going to be playing is Final Fantasy 14. Some like these games I want to go back to, but no, they're like making sure like, no, for the next like, 5 or 6 years, you're gonna be good.
Yeah,
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 definitely. Um, yeah, and so like so obviously I feel like Sony XDev plays like a huge factor into this as well because this isn't specific. Like I see a lot of people like on Twitter, like, they usually do kind of like snarkily being like, oh well, PlayStation doesn't have 25 studios or whatever, so like this number can't be right or whatever. And obviously they're not taking into account the Sony XDev sort of partnerships like a Returnal, like a Destruction All Stars, or like a Sackboy: A Big Adventure. And we got that
yeah,
recent, I think it was like a LinkedIn post or something like that, that was pointing to that XDev is essentially going to take on the role of what Japan Studio was doing, sort of no longer partnering with just titles in Europe, but now there's sort of going to be a global sort of support studio. So now, I think this does open the door for, okay, Haven Studios game possibly being a PlayStation Studios game now, or Firewalk possibly being a PlayStation Studios game now. So I do think that, like, yeah, like obviously this accounts for whatever is going on first party as well, but on top of that, sort of these XDev partnerships like, Returnal, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
That's the thing that really excites me is too is like talk about XDev. You're seeing what PlayStation is going to be offering. Like you're seeing their answer, and maybe you don't like the answer. Maybe you want PlayStation to buy all the things. I don't. I want their acquisitions to make sense and that are meaningful. Like I do believe Sony put a ring on Housemark. They've treated you so well. Just do it. Put a ring on Blue Point. Like they make you've partnered. You have these deep relationships with these companies. Yeah, I think it's really awesome to see PlayStation go, no, 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 no. We don't have to buy the cow here. We can just partner with these dev teams and foster a relationship with them and help grow them.
Yeah.
And that could be our approach in, at least our 5 to 10 year outlook right now. You don't need to go out there and buy a Bethesda publisher because you need to make sure, like when the rumor was they were going to buy Square, I didn't even like that because, as y'all know me, I hate corporations. They're not my friend, and if they could, they'd buy me and sell me to the highest bidder. I don't trust them. So, like when I see consolidation in the marketplace, that does irk me a little bit because we just see corporations getting bigger and bigger, and where is the actual benefit for us? I don't know. And like you could point to Game Pass and go, "That's the benefit," but even then, I'm like, maybe, but till when? I don't trust a corporation not to screw me over. So I want to see businesses partner and rather than buy out. Like when I saw Microsoft, in talks to buy Discord, it's like, dude, why are we cheering for this?
Yeah,
They literally have Skype. Like, they
yeah,
don't
Yeah.
need another one of these services. You're just buying out competition. That's not how capitalism should work. So, like, make your own and a better service. So that's how I see this. It's like if XDev is their answer, so be it, because that's awesome. You're having companies partner with each other, and who knows? Maybe they buy them out, maybe they get bought out by someone else, or whatever happens. But it's really awesome to see that PlayStation's true strength. We mentioned Bloodborne is partnership, and they're really focusing on it with the PlayStation 5. That's what gets me really excited.
yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah, because like speaking to XDev, that's sort of where you're seeing like the true variety
Hmm.
in Sony's portfolio. Like in the launch alone, or launch window alone, we saw Destruction All Stars. Whether quality aside, even though I enjoyed that game, that game is wholly distinct from a Sackboy and from a Returnal. So yeah, as long as XDev can sort of provide that sort of like, if we can get that sort of quote unquote quirkiness or sort of uniqueness, or that palette cleanser versus the rest of Sony's stable, then yeah, I'm all for these partnerships and whatnot. Um,
Absolutely.
but Walt, what's let's get you in here, man. Like, what's your thoughts about this number of PlayStation's 25 games and half of them being new IP?
It'll go to further prove a point I made a few weeks ago of how people talking all this smack about how PlayStation is so silent and how they're making these wrong moves with the whole, now they packed on that with the PlayStation closing the PS3 and PS Vita stores, which they're not doing that anymore. But it just goes to show that they didn't need to update anyone on anything or to tell anyone. It'd be great because it does give that sense of how we were talking about podcasts, that sense of community and like, oh, they're listening to us. It's more of a back and forth between, which in reality, again, to Mr. BadBit's point, it's all corporation. This is all business at the end of the day. What they mean to do is sell a product. And what's PlayStation going to do? They're going to sell 25 fantastic, maybe not all of them, but fantastic products, I mean, some of them maybe hit or miss. A lot of them, I'm pretty sure they're going to be nines and tens, very, very likely. PlayStation hits a lot of their marks in terms of games, when it comes to games. And people already shut up about it, about how PlayStation was taking these L's because apparently when the other one succeeds, you're failing for some reason.
Right.
Which Xbox, it's all fine and dandy, but again, at the end of the day, as much as I love the idea of Game Pass, it'll only last you for so long until the catalog of games will like just grow stale and people will lose interest. And you really need those first party titles. You really need those exclusives to reel people back in and let know, hey, we actually got going to do. And honestly, half of those are new IPs. I am so excited for that, man. Just I think it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. What was it called? Forspoken? That's one of
Yes.
dude. I love how that looks. That looks next gen as hell, and it's diverse. The protagonist is a female person of color, and the way the game moves and I don't know feels. I haven't played the game. The way it moves and looks. If we get quality like that, not necessarily third person, action adventure games, but in the realm of quality and diversity, and what if they bring old classics back? I don't know if eventually, how you guys always talk about how bring Sly back. Will we get a Sly at some point? Is it in the span of these 25 IPs? Is it hidden in there? Maybe not in the 25s, but it's underneath the cracks. It's rising from the ashes. I don't know. Dude, listen, I'm all about great games, and
Yeah.
that's it. Honestly, the company can be mute, but as long as you deliver the games, dude, I'm content. Again,
Yeah.
this doesn't mean it doesn't justify the fact that they were not letting you know that they were gonna close this, their stores from legacy consoles, and not tell you ahead of time. We had to look at a leak, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we were doing this." No, that's pretty shitty. I don't like
Yeah.
that, and that's where the corporation aspect, like, it falls through the cracks, and you're like, "Oh wait, right, it's all just a bunch of suits in a freaking meeting room." Right.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. And
you
I
know,
like what you mentioned when it comes to diversity. It's one of the reasons why I really love PlayStation, man. And you know, like Horizon Zero Dawn was the fastest selling game with a female protagonist. Like having a lesbian be one of your staple mascots means
absolutely.
something. Having
Absolutely.
Miles Morales, a black teen, be the thing that you put right next to your fucking PS5 launch is powerful
It's insane.
for folks. That's the thing
Oh
that I
yeah.
love about what PlayStation has done. It's like, yeah, Returnal, we're gonna put a middle-aged white woman with with these two different color eyes, like that totally normal looking, or what we perceive as normal looking female on the cover here. That's gonna be the person you cheer for. It's not a super soldier, it's not some buff white dude, it's a mother. And like that is awesome. It's awesome to
Exactly.
see other companies like Microsoft go, you know what? We're gonna put Kate as the main protagonist and front and
Love to
center
see it.
In Gears 5. Yeah,
Love to
it's
see it.
awesome.
It's been too long where video games they were getting to a point. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe like 4 years ago, because I agree with the sentiment that we mentioned earlier. 2017 being a legendary year for games. Before that, it got very stale for a bit. It got very monotonous, I think.
Sure.
The way and whenever diversity was in question, the game maybe wasn't as good. And one example, you can argue with Assassin's Creed Origins being a different take on the Assassin's Creed franchise. Yeah, Bayek being Egyptian, having these different kinds of characters, but the game itself, it didn't held up to what maybe its legacy built with Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which ironically, yeah, they're Italian. Yeah, they're in the Caribbean, but they're all white males. They're mostly white males. No one
Yeah.
talks about liberation. No one talks about Freedom Cry. No one talks about these games that are,
Hmm.
in its core, quality. Because
Yeah.
say what you want about them, Freedom Cry, that little adventure with Edward's second mate, forgot his name.
Yeah.
Fantastic protagonist.
Adewale, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic little adventure with him, and it touched on really important issues that should not be forgotten. Such as
Yep.
slavery and whatnot. Um, and it reminds us of where we are right now and how we got here. I'm excited, man. These 25 IPs. I can't wait for those trailers to drop, and that's the beauty of it. You have nothing to attach it to in terms of a title or a franchise. No Uncharted, no Last of Us. No, give me
Yeah.
something completely new. And I don't mind another, Uncharted in the future, not necessarily main title. Like they did with what's her name, Chloe Frazier. Give me
Oh, man,
something
and
like
that's my
that.
favorite one, by the way. My
It's
favorite
amazing.
Uncharted right there. Yeah.
It's a fantastic. It sucks that it's so short, but it does well what it does. It's
Yeah.
perfect length, I guess.
I really do think so. When people are like, Miles Morales is only an 8 hour, 10 hour game. I'm like, okay, but like, are those hours really good? Am I engaged throughout the
Amazing.
whole thing? If the answer is yes, that's a good game, and I'm willing to pay money for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Which,
exactly. Same
yeah,
here.
which a game that did that and is doing that, I think, and you're playing it currently. Resident Evil Village is not the longest game, but holy hell, I'm gonna see myself beating that game 5, 6 times probably, because there's so
Absolutely.
much replayability, and
Yeah.
they really have to strike the balance of good game, diverse, innovative. Like, we for the past couple of years, it's been all remakes and remasters mostly.
Yeah.
I can't wait for fresh new titles, fresh out of the oven. I can't wait. And, hey,
Absolutely.
at least we know Jim Ryan's all fine, right, Macho? I mean, you can.
Did you get any side effects?
Yes, man.
How's his 5G
He's a GQ model at this point, as far as I know. Man. He's a head of PlayStation GQ model. He wears that suit pretty nicely, I'll admit. But yeah, man.
Hey man, I
come on,
think
losergaming.net. We'll hit you up, man.
hey, I think that vaccine was the reason why he reversed the decision on the PlayStation Store, man. It got him acting a little weird, That's what it was, man. That explains it.
He's like, if I'm getting COVID, I'm also just taking that PSN store, right?
that was a side effect to the vaccine, man.
Yeah, side effects of vaccine. Let's see. First one, taking L's. Here you go, Mr. Ryan.
There you go.
So I mean, you had a segue there, Walt, but you touched on RE Village, so let's talk about it, man. So Resident Evil Village released recently, and congratulations to Capcom, man. They're continuing their streak of not only putting out great titles, but also games that are resonating with gamers in terms of sales. The game sold or had already shipped 3 million copies. Which is just fantastic. It makes me so happy to see Capcom, doing as well as they are. But yeah, man, I don't really know how to sort of frame this. First of all, MrBadBit, have you been playing RE Village?
I have been. First, I just want to say, after I say this, I gotta head on out because I got Boom show that I gotta be a part of. So
Right.
first and foremost, it's been fantastic. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, we appreciate you stopping by, man.
And honestly, any time in the near future you want me to hop back on, I'm always here. This has been a really great chat, guys.
For sure, yeah,
that
we'll
said-
definitely get you back.
Love to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Resident Evil Village. Let me first off, code provided by Capcom, so you can take anything I say with a grain of salt. But I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil, but I'm a new fan at the same exact time. So like, my first Resident Evil is Resident Evil 7. My Resident Evil after that was 2 remake. The one after that, 3 remake. I just finished Resident Evil 4 for the first time.
Nice.
I'm a new fan of this series, and the thing that I always draw parallels from, which is like the direct comparison, is Dead Space. I love Dead Space. You give us
classic.
the remake/remasters we actually need and want. I point you in the Dead Space direction. It's coming. It's coming. Just have faith. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, Resident Evil, the first one is for me it's first person for me. I know how weird that sounds. And Resident Evil 7 is one of the scariest goddamn games I've ever played. It's terrifying. It is one of my favorite horror games just ever. It's a really good time. Even Resident Evil 2, which I will say is a legitimate masterpiece. Like that game is just, oh my god, so good. And like Leon and Ada, oh my god, these two, just let me just watch, let me be a casual observer. Nonetheless, I'm in love with Ada and she could punch me right in the face. Resident Evil Village, on the other hand, just right in the face, Ada. Resident Evil Village is a different type of scary. It's not, from what I've gotten so far, it's not as scary as 7. I don't even think anywhere near. It's more like a roller coaster ride. Right? Like, again, I'm like 3-ish hours in, and it really does feel like I get on this other ride. And it's going to take me through, it's going to guide me to the things it wants to horrify me at, and it's going to put me in these situations that I wasn't in from one stop to the next. I'm really digging the game so far. The one thing that I'll say, I'm playing it on PlayStation 5, is, first off, the game is gorgeous. I think everybody's beating that horse to death, but you have to say it. This game is one of the most beautiful looking next gen titles out there, And at the same exact time, it looks haunting. It looks scary as all shit. And it's accompanied by what I think Resident Evil does, and better than any other game in history. That is its environmental sounds, coupled with the Tempest sound engine, is truly horrific. You really can pinpoint. There's a point early on in the game where there are two lichens in a cornfield or wheat field, and you are hearing them around you, but you can actually pinpoint with your headsets where they are and where the growls are coming from. It does such a great job of creeping you out through its ambiance that I have not seen another horror game do. And it's just amplified here in Village. Resident Evil is unmatched when it comes to that environmental horror that it sets out to do. Like, I saw one person on Twitter, and kudos to them, they said it perfectly. They created such a beautiful engine to show me the most disgusting shit I've ever seen. Like, that is Village in a nutshell, man. Like,
oh yeah,
the mold that like you see on the grapes is so defined. Like, the lighting in this game is incredible. I could look at that vase in the Lady D castle all day long, but like the torture porn that they do to poor goddamn what's his name,
Ethan?
Ethan's hands. There's multiple times you're like, stop doing this, god damn it. This poor guy. The only thing that I'll say is I'm not, there's a layer of camp to Resident Evil and Capcom as entirety. But I'm not the biggest fan of Ethan's performance. Like, I think he has the opportunity to be a really good character. If they I think the director in that director's chair, I don't think that actor was directed in the best way possible, because there are a lot of lines that he says are cheese that he doesn't really nail well. Or like some of his reactions are a little bit too late to when the player's actually thinking about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then also the thing that it breaks my immersion is we're in Italy, right? Some faraway village in Europe.
Right.
Everybody has a Midwestern accent. What's up with that? Everybody is from small town Idaho rather than like Italy. Like, give me the bibbidi bobbidi bibbidi boobidi. Like, give me Italian. Give me because what's more terrifying? What is absolutely more terrifying? Landing in a place that is strange to you and a foreign place that is, ridden with creatures, or dropping you into a place that is riddled with creatures and you do not speak that language.
Yeah, I mean,
terrifying.
To be honest, like imagining Lady Dimitrescu with an Italian accent is pretty terrifying. Like, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, like I don't want that one bit. Like, not at all. Like,
but like, it's very much like Capcom's like, okay, so what do Americans think Europeans sound like?
Right.
British. It's kind of like watching that movie. God, it was like a Tom Cruise movie where like. It's like in World War II and they're Nazis, but they all have British accents. It's like, no, they're German. it's that type of immersion breaking.
But I mean, it's the same thing with like the names too, right? Like, I feel like Ethan Winters is like Capcom just saying, what's the most like American, like almost like action hero sort of name, and they're like, well,
exactly.
It's like
Ethan
a stage
Winters.
name, yeah.
It's like, take the sunglasses off when you say it. That's how you know it's cool.
Also, really quick before you get going, breaking news: Insomniac has just announced that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has officially gone gold.
Nice.
Congratulations to them. It's coming, guys. It's almost here.
It's coming.
Yes, I can't wait to see those videos.
Very exciting.
And again, thank you all for having me. It's been such a terrific time, guys. I really enjoyed chatting with y'all.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get you back on for sure.
Yeah, we love having you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, my man. I really appreciate it.
And speaking of Ratchet and Clank, we do have a giveaway on the trophy room right now. We have we're only 38 reviews away from breaking 200 reviews worldwide on Apple Podcasts.
Ooh.
By rating us 5 stars, give us, take a picture of your review, send it to us on Twitter. You're entered to win. If you already put down a review on the Trophy Room, a 5-star review, you're entered as well. If you're a patron over at patreon.com/pstrophyroom, you are entered as well. This is just our way of celebrating Ratchet and Clank while at the same time promoting the show, The Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, where me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation each and every Thursday. We have a really great episode this week talking about those 25, first-party games, talking about Ratchet and Clank's final preview, the PlayStation supply shortage going until 2022, all that and more over on the Trophy Room show. Gang, guys,
Nice.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. This was fantastic.
Hell yeah, man. It was fun.
Where can people follow you on Twitter?
Oh, yeah, man. You can follow me over at MrBadBit on Twitter. You can follow the show at PS Trophy Room as well on Twitter. Again, guys, thank you so much for having me. This was a treat. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Awesome,
for
man.
sure. Thanks
Thank you for joining.
For sure. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
through, man.
Absolutely. See you guys.
See ya. This is the awkward part now.
Already said.
We'll miss you.
Shout out to MrBadBit, man. He's
Yeah.
such a great guy. He was more than willing to come on the show after I sent him a message, and it was a treat. It was a treat because he is
Such
one
a
of the most
bundle of joy.
positive. Yeah, exactly. He's one of the most positive beacons in the PlayStation community. So it was an honor to have him on here, and looking forward to having him again sometime in the future.
Definitely, really
love
appreciate
to hear
that.
it.
Like I said, just genuinely grateful that we're a small podcast, and that he took the time to come and kick it with us for a little bit is really cool. I think it kind of proves your point, Macho, of just kind of the person he is. Really appreciate that. So back to RE Village. I mean, give me your guys' sort of overhead like impressions on the game. You guys enjoying your time with it? I've seen you guys have beaten it several times already, right?
I'm gonna let Macho go in on that because he's actually beaten it a second time. I'm doing other stuff that's for completion, but yeah. Go ahead, Macho.
I'm currently on my third playthrough actually. I kind of broke down my road to the platinum trophy already, which is kind of nuts because I've never gotten 100% completion, or at least like a trophy rate
Platinum,
100% completion. Yeah, in the platinum in the Resident Evil game. It never occurred to me in my mind, like for me, like doing a knife only run and doing speedrun playthroughs are like the bane of my existence. I hate doing those, like those, or even if I wanted to do them, I would groan and just roll my eyes. But with Resident Evil Village, I jumped right into it. It was just like, for me, I was just like, let's do it. Let's actually go through the game and like really see how fast I can complete the game in this time, or get all the collectibles and go into Mercenaries mode and get like the high score and stuff like that. So I'm enjoying it so much, way more than I was really expecting. And to MrBadBit's point, like what really sells it for me is the atmosphere and kind of the variety of horrors that you're getting. I was talking to you guys before about when how I'm kind of like approaching my review for lordsofgaming.net, which I have to get to, but the game is like stealing me away so many times. And the theme that I'm going for is like a theme park of horrors, but like here it feels like more of like you're going to a high class fancy restaurant and you're just ordering appetizers, and that's okay too because you're gonna get the best of the best. And that's what it feels like with this game. There's a couple of missteps, obviously. Again, what MrBadBit said, like about Ethan's, like the way like he says certain lines, or like just the like how cringy it can be. It's like
Here's the thing, man.
It's immersion breaking.
Yeah.
Like full stop.
So I beat the game, right? I was telling Macho how I was disagreeing with a few lines that he didn't particularly like, but I actually found like fitting for like the type of approach that every Resident Evil does, because every Resident Evil has those kind of like weird moments. But here's the thing.
Yeah, but man, like he was like in the dark for 5 seconds. He's like, it's dark.
No, yeah.
Yeah, no shit, dude.
I'm gonna get to that. So here's the thing. Here's what I found out when I beat the game, right? Ethan Winters, this is his second game. That's fine. But the fact that we're not even attached to him, we're more prone to see his flaws, and he has a lot of them. First of them, I do agree with MrBadBit that the direction to how he delivered his lines could have been significantly better, for sure. The timing, that as well. I wasn't too surprised with maybe him like seeing certain events unfolding and being like more calm than usual, because I would assume that a night at the Baker estate would traumatize you to the point where you maybe find certain things pretty normal. But the thing is, he found other things pretty insane. But I get why, because the one section where he, Macho knows what section it is, he finds especially traumatizing because it deals with his daughter more and with Rose, and like you hear baby noises and whatever. But to MrBadBit's point of the lines, there's some lines that work for me in terms of B horror movie, very cheesy 90s. Like there's a section where like he's talking to Chris and he goes, and if I find Mother Miranda, he clocks his gun, he goes, she's a dead woman. And I'm like, oh man, that's
bad.
It's so bad, but it's so funny. It's so like,
I couldn't vibe with it, man. Like once he did, in my head I was like, "Shut the up, Ethan! Like, just go and do your thing, bro. Like, come on."
And the thing is, with Ethan Winters, they have a like volatile protagonist that essentially just, if he were to only redirect his anger towards everything and like be more hostile and less one-liners, oh, hey, I'm pretty cool kind of thing, it would have worked 10 times better. Mind you, his whole arc, I do like. His whole arc, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but his whole beginning to end and how everything turns out, I really like what they did. I guess it's more of liking the character, but I can set that aside and say that his intentions and everything that went to the conclusion of the game, it worked for me. It was very, it was sentimental and more towards the whole story as a whole, because you did have certain feelings, but towards Ethan himself, it's kind of whatever. Because contrary to Resident Evil 4, where you start the game as Leon, first of all, Leon, he's like on one spectrum, Ethan is on the other spectrum. You can't compare Leon to any other protagonist in Resident Evil. I think Leon is the coolest protagonist in all Resident Evil. The approach they did with him with RE2 already, he's, it makes sense. He's a prodigy already, He applied for the police force and he went to work the next day, and the next day it just so happens that Raccoon City erupted. All this chaos, the T-virus, and he proved himself. He's a badass. Ada was like, I like you. You're a badass. Claire's like, oh snap, I rely on you. Everyone is showing how reliable this man is. And then RE4, oh hey, you have to rescue the president's daughter. Oh, okay. Sure, whatever. Go ahead to Las Plagas or whatever. So a line that goes, where's everyone going? Bingo? That's kind of like, shut the hell up, Elion, but you don't hate him for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Ethan is like, dude, you're just someone. Why are you acting like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible? Which doesn't make sense at times, but overall, the game being so good, that brought it up back to like, okay, this game is so good, I am willing to like look past certain lines that just are, or sometimes it gets cringy at times a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, to add to that, dude, like, yeah, completely, like, it doesn't take away from the entire experience.
Yeah.
And I will say that this is the most invested I've been in a Resident Evil story in the entire series, and I played just about all of them. Yeah, I played just about all of them, and this is the one where, like, I anticipate Resident Evil games because I like them, they're fun, right? So, like, when the new one gets announced, I'm like, yeah, all right, cool, let's get into it. But, like, this is the one I'm like, dude, I can't wait for Resident Evil 9 and where they're going to take it. Because they introduce a lot of really cool stuff, and I was very hesitant on the first-person perspective to change a little bit of the topic here. But they're killing it, dude. And I heard Maximilian dude say this before, where it's like Capcom is not in their what's the word I'm looking for? Like redemption phase. They're past that. They're in their renaissance right now. And
Oh,
Resident Evil
absolutely.
8 is just a testament to that, and it's only gonna get better really from here on out. At least you hope so.
Oh,
But
for
yeah,
sure. In terms of
this one's like
gameplay,
so good.
they've nailed RE2 remake, RE3 remake, because it's essentially
Yeah.
the same as RE2 remake, just the story is shorter. And this one, the first person aspect, I get it. They try to make you feel, because it's a different approach. The hands are always getting messed up because that's the only part the player sees. So you're supposed to see like repercussions through something. But I get
Yeah,
they could have
it's like an emotional attachment kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
really. Yeah.
They just, that I guess it needed to be done better, but it wasn't bad enough to where it ruined the experience. I can't wait. It's been a while since they've introduced a new character. Since RE7 they introduced them, because the last time they did it, like a brand new characters, they were pretty forgettable in RE6. You know what I mean? Because you can't go wrong, and I think that's why they're trying to step out of their comfort zone. You can't go wrong with a Chris Redfield, Leon, Claire, Jill. You can't go wrong with those protagonists. If you make a game with them as its centerpiece, you're going to be fine narrative-wise, I think, to a certain extent. So I think that they should keep doing this, honestly. Do your third person, do your first person. They're doing both. I'm excited for what comes.
Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, I don't know. You guys are definitely sort of like inching me closer to jumping in, man.
I knew it. I hear in your voice when you're hesitant to say you're hesitant to say I'm gonna play this game. I'm gonna go out and get it. But I understand though. Like
But
there's a couple of things where like where it's like there's like a little bit of hesitancy to like fully diving in, but like I really can't stress enough. Just like, and this comes from someone that loved Resident Evil 7, and didn't really like Resident Evil 4, but like Resident Evil Village is just hitting a note and just going with it, and I absolutely love its variety. Even if I'm more of a person that loves the thrills and kind of like, even if it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, my blinds are up and the shades are down, like I'm still getting scared. And this game just did that and more, and delivered like one of the scariest sequences I ever played. And and after that, like I will say that the first hour and a half was kind of slow, and it really felt like I was going to Six Flags Fright Fest, and like I was supposed to get scared at certain moments, and these people are just actors, right? But then when it opens up and it just delivers on certain set pieces and sequences and events, dude, it doesn't stop and it keeps going. And then it turns into Resident Evil, and you're just like, yo, this is awesome. Even if it's like a little cheesy sometimes. But yeah, it's just like, it feels like the full package. And honestly, it's I'm going to be questioning Capcom every time they bring up Resident Evil and where they're going to go from here.
I think for me it's just like see, I can handle lichens, and I can handle, like werewolves, zombies, and Lady Dimitrescu.
Oh, of course you can. Of course you can.
but I draw the line at fat bobblehead babies. You know what I mean? Like I can't, like I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Oh
part.
man, overcome that fear. Overcome that fear.
I'm not doing that.
So
man.
I'm not gonna lie to you. So when I finished that area, I was oh, I'm so glad I'm done. But my heart was beating so hard. I was like, holy crap, I haven't been that scared legit since Outlast 2. It is insanity of how tense that section is.
Yeah,
And
I had to take like 3 or 4 breaks just to
it's funny.
calm my anxiety.
It's funny because like I saw like everyone on Twitter was talking about this one scene, like, oh my god, this one scene, and House Beneviento or whatever it's called. And and I was like okay, let me look this up, because like I don't think I'm gonna play this game anytime soon, so let me look this up. And then most of it was like the walkthrough was most of it going through a dollhouse, and I was like, okay, that's not too bad. And then the baby showed up, and I was like, oh no,
dude,
I'm not
it's
doing
the
this.
anticipation. It's the anticipation, because throughout the whole puzzle, there's nothing. There is silence. It's deafening. There is nothing.
It's a masterpiece sequence, man.
And occasionally you hear like a little drop or a little creak on the wood floor. And if Capcom makes a whole game like this, oh my god, I am day one, and I'm shitting my pants day one.
No, they kind of almost did with Resident Evil 7, where like
for sure.
a big part of the beginning was just that feeling of dread and fear.
Oh yeah, the unknown. Because that's the thing with every Resident Evil. The first run, you're like, holy crap, I don't know what's around the corner. But then after that, you're like, memorize every corner, memorize every boss.
No, dude. Even then, man, I did my speed run and like I had my fiance on the phone. I was getting to that house, and I was like, "Would you want to just like stay on the phone, just chilling with me for a little bit while I speed run through this area?" And she's like, "Yeah." So she starts talking about random stuff. I'm just like, "Yeah, okay, and then like I'm like rounding around corners trying to remember like where to go and everything, and then she was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I'm good, I'm good." Like it still got to me even after that.
It's awful, man. It's awful. But yeah, Jay, at the end of the day, honestly, be prepared to the classic Resident Evil formula. They didn't change anything. It's horror, and then eventually it leads up to a bit of action, and then you always have that sequence that's pure action. And expect that formula, but honestly, until you play it, you won't know if it's a hit or miss for you. Because a lot of people, everyone will find something they adore about this game. Everyone will find something.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Everybody's like, there's some people that lukewarm about it, but then there's other people that really like dive into it, and I feel like it's one of those games you have to play to really understand.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, most of it. I'm a little bit disappointed about the Lady Dimitrescu not being, or just that environment of her house or her castle, specifically not being, the main focus, or being such a short, the screen time being so short, because that's the environment that kind of speaks to me the most. That sort of gothic, sort of, castle like aesthetic.
Classic RE.
I love that stuff. But yeah, yeah, a lot of it does look really, really cool. I'll eventually play it, but I have a real, like, all this RE8 talk is giving me like this real urge to jump into RE2. I haven't played it yet, but now I'm kind of like, man, I really want to play that now. So I think
that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the
play
PlayStation is not as creepy, but like it's definitely like it's
still tense.
It's basically like a mirror version of the Mansion RE1, which is just as good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna be looking into that. Because it's funny, because like I had RE7 downloaded off of the PS Plus collection thing, and I was gonna start that. And so this is probably obvious, but of course, my whatever, I obviously it didn't click with me, was that you need PS Plus to actually access the titles that you download from that collection. So, and I don't have PS Plus anymore. So you can't play those games if you don't have PS Plus. So like when I have it still in my library, but it has a lock on it because I don't have PS Plus. So like I clicked on it like again and again. I was like, why can't I play this? And then when it clicked that I didn't have PS Plus, I kind of did that Pikachu meme with the mouth like wide open. I was like, oh. So
it's like when Andre shoots. Is it Andre? No, shoots Hannibal. And he's like, "Who shot him?" It's like, wait, who didn't pay for PS Plus? You're like, wait, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So yeah, I got a already sort of kind of urge to jump into those games. So yeah. Maybe I'll do that pretty soon now that Returnal is done.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Can't wait to play that game.
And speaking of Returnal, just want to give sort of my like sort of closing thoughts on this game. Because
last time, doing a lot of it on Lords of Gaming.
Yeah, I have so many like ideas in terms of like articles that I want to do for that. Yeah, so last podcast, I think I just reached Biome 4, I want to say. And like the first of all, the transition between, because once you get to Biome 4, that's the game's essential like first hard checkpoint. So like once you get to Biome 4, you no longer have to go all the way back to Biome 1. So if you die, let's say at Biome 5, you go back to 4 instead of Biome 1. So that's the first like checkpoint of the game. But the transition from 3 to 4 is story wise, what happens story wise between those two biomes is one of the coolest story sequences that I've had in years, man. Like once it clicks as to what exactly happened, my jaw was just on the ground. I'm like, oh my god, dude. Um, and watching Maximilian stream that part as well, and once he was talking to his chat, and the realization kicked in for him as well, he had the same exact reaction. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, so I feel like I talked about the gameplay like extensively last podcast, so I'm not really gonna touch on it too much here as well, but it continue like it's just addictive. Like I love that gameplay. Um yeah, it's top to bottom. It's just so fun. Once everything like Mr. Badbit was kind of alluding to this, like the language of Returnal. Once you understand it, once the mechanics starts to click, once everything starts to make sense of all these moving parts, and you fully grasp it, there's just this flow that you kind of like ease into, and everything makes sense, and you start finding yourself in that rhythm, and it just feels so good.
Your third eye opens.
Yeah. It becomes second nature, honestly. Yeah. But story wise is what this thing really sort of surprised me on. And it's not like I said last podcast as well. It's not. Don't come into this expecting it to be sort of like, like the sort of scale of cutscenes and in your face story as a God of War, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, etc., etc. This is definitely more subtle, on the same sort of degree of subtlety as a Souls game, where it's not going to put everything in your face. Like it gives you sort of breadcrumbs and little nuggets of information, but it's really on you to sort of piece together these clues as in terms of like the larger story at hand. And once you actually do that, once you actually dig a little bit deeper into what is there, what's like underneath the surface of Returnal, man, it's some mind-blowing stuff as to, okay, what is this planet? Why is Celine here? Who is the astronaut? What's going on with the house? Is this stuff even real? Et cetera. Like there is so much happening in this story that it's one of those rare games where I'm actually going into forums, I'm going into Reset Era and YouTube videos, and I'm looking up like different people's theories and reads as to what people extracted from the story. Like what are people piecing together here? Because it's just that fascinating. It just has a surprising amount of depth that I just was not expecting. And yeah, it's just one of the coolest stories that I've ever played in a long time, and it really rewards those who take the time to actually dig a little deeper, and I promise you it is worthwhile to take the time to do so, because there's a lot there. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions, because this is probably the last time I'm gonna talk about the game.
I have one.
Okay.
So now you finished it. You got the whole gist of it. Actually, two questions. First one, I don't think you have the answer. The platinum. Have you seen the platinum? Have you seen the trophies or not?
No, I haven't really looked into it.
Gotcha. Because I really want to find out how like absurd it is or not, but that we can discuss later. Seeing the ending and seeing everything it did, is there potential for DLC, a sequel, or is this the end of Celine's story?
That's
Without spoiling.
Without spoiling, that's the tough part. I totally think they could do a sequel. And I think I will leave it at that.
Okay,
All right,
that's fine.
It's a little spoilery, so I'd like to definitely see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
But
leave
if there's what I want to know is if it's the room for more, because I don't want to finish it and have to be like, whoa, is there something I missed? Is there something that didn't? Because it is a piece it together. I don't want to get to the end and be like, wait, did I miss something? Why does this feel incomplete? You know what I mean? I don't want to get that. I mean, from here until I play that game, I don't know how long it'll be.
I think if you just like straight up finish the game or even get the secret ending to the game, which is essentially you have to do all of the house sequences, which I didn't do on my first playthrough. So I had to go back and finish that stuff. Which, by the way, there's one house sequence in particular that just like again blew my mind. The stuff that happens there is pretty cool. But yeah, so what I was saying was that like I think even just getting the secret ending, you're still gonna be like, what the fuck? In terms of like you're not gonna feel fulfilled, or you're still going to feel like you don't have all the answers. And so that's sort of like where going back to the audio logs and you know, looking up what people are saying about the story, I think really comes into play. And specifically about the audio logs, it's this and I don't know if I've had this with a game yet, but it's this really cool thing where you feel like you have a grasp of what she's talking about on your first playthrough. But then once you finish the game, and then once you kind of get into that headspace of you know, reading theories and whatnot, and you go back and listen to these audio logs with that context of everything that you know after finishing the game, it's almost like a whole new experience, because now you're walking into this like, okay, now you understand, okay, when she's talking about this, she didn't mean literally specifically this, she's talking about something else.
Gotcha.
It's nuts, man, because those audio logs now take on a whole different meaning, right? Like the meaning is kind of like flipped on its head, and you're kind of like, oh, so this is what she meant. Yeah, so it's like I've had a lot of that within like re-listening to the audio logs, because yeah, when you first hear it, it's kind of like nonsense, borderline nonsense, just like she's just like kind of talking to herself or whatever.
Yeah, control.
Yeah, but then yeah, once you do finish and you have a little bit more context and you go back to listen to them, it's pretty creepy stuff, to be honest, because it's like the answers were always there from the beginning. It was always there, but you obviously didn't know, because you didn't know what all these things meant originally.
Gotcha.
It's again, it's pretty wild stuff.
That's super cool.
Love to hear it.
Yeah,
Can't
for
wait.
sure. Yeah, it's definitely recommend it for sure. So yeah, that's Returnal, and I really wanted to pick BadBit's brain on that, because he seemed really impressed by the story as well. And yeah, and
Definitely,
Maximilian
we'll have him on again. We could definitely talk about
for
it.
sure. And like I was watching Maximilian dude's ending live stream of the game, and like the last like hour of that stream, it's just him in the chat just going through like what the hell this thing means. And it was really cool, just kind of like listening in on that. Yeah, it's such a cool game, and again, it just kind of goes to show, you know, so like it's so crazy that this is a Sony PlayStation Studios game, man. That is so weird, and it's so like unabashedly itself is really, really cool. So yeah, that's Returnal. I absolutely love the game. So last topic before we end the podcast. Let's talk about Ubisoft, because they were kind of in some they caught some slander this week, didn't they, Macho?
Yes, they did. Whether some things were taken out of context or whatnot, but yeah, it didn't sound really appealing from what broke out.
Yeah, and like I kind of blame them for that, because of like their verbiage that they use, because they specifically did say that, hey, we're no longer doing 3 to 4 you know, AAA titles a year anymore, that we are pursuing you know, more free to play and whatnot. And that verbiage, the way that they worded it was just like, Yeah, it's going to be inherently eyebrow raising, but then they came out and kind of clarified their statement and essentially said that, hey, we're still committed to these AAA titles, but this isn't about taking away anything. This is more about adding more to the portfolio, that we're going to be doing things like the Division Heartlands, but as well, on top of, the Division and Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. But it seems more than anything that they're going to still do those AAA titles, but they're also on the side going to try to convert them to free to play models as well. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this, because this is certainly sort of like what we see happening to the industry at wide, sort of everyone chasing this carrot on the stick of like the Apex and the Fortnites and whatnot. Like everybody wants a piece of that pie. So this doesn't really come as a surprise to you guys, right?
No, because one of my favorite game makers, Square Enix, is like in that route too, where
Yeah.
they have their standout titles, which I love and appreciate, and we get few and far in between, last like generation or so. But they're starting to like hit that rhythm again. Well, at the same time, they are working on their mobile stuff. They do a lot of mobile Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts stuff, and whatever franchise that they have under their belt. And now they're even looking in the Western market. So they already try to dip their toe in with the Avengers. They're probably gonna do it for other franchises as well. Like the Hitman, they did like a piecemeal thing for a while, and then Tomb Raider was kind of like all over the place. So it doesn't surprise me with the kind of franchise that Ubisoft has that they want it. I mean, they just announced that the Division is gonna get like a whole dinner plate of content, whether it's movies or free to play mobile. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but still, it's like I just really hope this doesn't mean that we're gonna get giant Valhalla Assassin's Creed games every couple years,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
that's what I don't want.
I do hope that if they're focusing, because they say they're not neglecting per se their AAA, but they are focusing more on free to play, which free to play, it's not free to play. It just means, yeah, it's free to play until you get hooked on it. There's a lot of games that first major one being Fortnite, and how that blew up so much, and how so many companies are seeing these approaches at a video game and realizing, oh wait, the revenue is like more constant and longer term with free to play games. I mean, that makes sense. It's not surprising. It just makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, the engagement
Again,
and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and you get to dedicate more time to these. I don't know how many high-end free-to-play games they're making. I don't think they're going to distribute their attention to like five of them at the same time. I think they're going to have their prototype, their first big one, and from there they're going to evolve and try to adapt to however the community reacts. In terms of their AAA titles, I mean, man, I like to see something different. Not Immortals, for as not many people talking about it, Phoenix Rising and whatever it turned out to be. At its core, if it was less robust and less like large, like a Valhalla, you have a good game in there somewhere. They think more is better, and they realize, oh wait, more is better, but slowly, releasing content like in a free to play game. So I feel like at least I hope that if they do this focus, their AAA titles become more condensed and more focused and more to how their old school games went, like Watch Dogs 1, whatever it turned out to be, Assassin's Creed 2, more focused, smaller games compared to their mammoth Valhalla, Origins, and Odyssey. Good God, that game was freaking... It gets monotonous. I just hope that the AAAs don't suffer from this focus, because they can say whatever they want. They can say, "Oh no, we're still focused." No. Don't speak. Just do your action. Actions speak louder than words. And honestly, I just want to see what their first quote unquote high-end free-to-play game is. Like, what does that even mean? Like, high-end, what does that mean from their side? What does high-end mean? Like, is this going to be just quality? Was it going to be longevity? Is it going to be a Destiny ordeal where it's like, oh, free to play, high end game, will have a 10-year contract and then slowly evolve as we go on? I don't know. A lot of games are successful at it. Some of them just fall and never come back. A Lawbreakers, a Battleborn, these games that were supposed to like keep you hooked for a long time and just like died eventually. And Anthem was a huge disappointment, and look where it got canceled. So I hope whatever they do, it's not at the Fortnite level, but it is at that replayability and keep you hooked for a long time. At least, I don't know what they might do.
Hey man, you said Anthem, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, Anthem was supposed to be this game of service. No,
gonna fart on that, man.
I mean, honestly, it deserves it because, dude, God damn, I'm still bitter about that, man. So much potential, so fun.
Okay.
The mechanics were
it's okay,
there.
Walt. It's okay, Walt. Oh, but like so specifically to like I don't think they're gonna stop their massive behemoth like Assassin's Creed.
Quality might waver.
And maybe, I mean, I would argue the quality is already wavering. Yeah, it's been wavering for a long time, man. Let's be honest.
Quality might waver by their standards. Standards.
Right. But like, because those games make a boatload of money for them, so I don't see them stopping. I mean, they just reported that Assassin's Creed Valhalla was like their most like successful game in the franchise or whatever. So. Yeah. Obviously, what they're doing, these huge 100-hour RPGs are working, yeah, which is unfortunate, but
because this goes to who was it? I saw a tweet about it. I forgot who it was. Whoever you were, you know who you are when I say this, and how essentially so many people, so many gamers, they have this perspective of, oh, I'll get my money's worth if it's a large game, not necessarily a short, replayable game. No, it's odd. It's an odd mentality where people don't consider a 10-hour game such as like Village, where you can replay. That's not worth their $60 or $70. But a game that's 100+ hours, but it's dragged and not as thought out, it is worth the $60. They measure it by length and not so much by quality, which I hope this mentality changes and doesn't we're seeing how PlayStation that's not wavering. Ratchet and Clank and Returnal, all these fantastic, not 100-hour plus games, and they're fantastic. But that's such an absurd way of seeing things. No, I get it. You're the consumer. You determine how you value your games, but don't no. What? No. Just no. No. No.
All right. So, yeah. I mean, I guess just sort of the consensus is that like we're not really surprised. This is sort of just like, unfortunately, where the industry is heading, man. This is the thing that unfortunately kind of prints money nowadays. Money. So. Yeah, which I think this kind of does tie back to Sony, that it just kind of makes them, at least for me, and why I've always sort of stuck with them is it makes them more appealing just in the fact that they continue to sort of hone in and focus on these more narrative driven sort of experiences and
quality.
As opposed to Activision and Ubisoft to what they're doing. Even Bethesda, before they got snatched up, they were sort of heading towards that route with in terms of like more multiplayer experimental kind of things with Youngblood and Fallout 76. It's nice to see Sony is just kind of like sticking to the thing that they do best. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. That's gonna do it for the podcast. We
still got one more thing. We got one more thing.
Oh, what's up?
Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, you wanna take it away? You wanna lead that?
Yeah, we'll touch on it real quick because we are running a bit on time. But yeah, so I mean, what happened with Ratchet and Clank obviously was that it went gold. So congrats to Sony Games on that, and they just had a big preview event that went live yesterday, and it was, I mean, who's really surprised?
First of all,
about the
let me
positive
just preface this conversation by saying no one, I mean absolutely no one is allowed to say that the game is Pixar this, Pixar that. Okay, we cannot use that comparison anymore, guys. Okay, go on, Macho.
I know that gets you really like that gets your tickles in the fancy, man. When it
No,
comes to
I saw this tweet. I forgot by who on Twitter that it was like 2009. I think it was Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time, and the article headline was like, Ratchet and Clank is like the first Pixar movie experience, and that was in 2009. And then the 2016 remake, an article, the headline was like, Ratchet and Clank is the closest thing to a Pixar movie, playable Pixar movie or whatever. And then 2021, another article with like that similar headline. And it's just like, guys, we've been saying this for like almost 12 years, man. It's just funny.
yeah,
It's just
I
funny.
know.
But
Yeah.
go ahead, man.
Oh,
But
it's
Macho, but
no,
it is a
it's
Pixar game.
yeah, because essentially, yeah. I mean, we send the DMs like it speaks to like their pedigree of because Pixar always ups their ante every time. So to see that Insomniac Games is sort of matching that is insane to me. Like it boggles my mind because I do watch these behind the scenes as far as like how much hard work goes into just the animation of these things. The fact that we're having something that's playable like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is nuts. I will say about the previews that I didn't really delve into the videos or much of the article. I saw and heard a couple things, but I really like to me. I don't need to be sold on the game. Like I'm gonna buy it. I just pre-ordered it last night, so for me, I'm ready to play it. And like, man, like I'm so ready for another Ratchet and Clank game, and I'm really excited about Rivet and kind of like what she adds to the whole mold of the entire franchise.
Are you excited about her?
Yeah. I was about to answer that as an enthusiastically
coming.
yes. But then
knew it was coming.
I got this sense in his tone. I was like, wait.
You're like, nah, I probably shouldn't answer that.
You could hear the lip smack beforehand. He was like,
Yeah. If I answered that the wrong way, I'd be like R. Kelly. I'd be like, I'm fighting for my life.
No, you saw what was going on with J Main, right?
Yeah. And then I think Alex like changed his name to like I'm not a furry, but and it's like James.
oh,
That man was horny for Rivet, man. That shit was crazy. That was crazy.
It's when they sent out that gif of her doing the wink from
yeah,
like what stood it out, man.
Yeah, that's what did it for
that
him.
got everybody that tickle.
Yeah, that's what did it for him.
Oh man.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I didn't really, cause I'm trying to go like, not like 100% media blackout, but I'm trying to go like relatively like as blind as possible. But I did watch podcast Beyond and what Jonathan Dornbush was saying about the game was because he's a huge Ratchet and Clank fan since like the beginning, and you know, he was saying, yeah, the gameplay, you know, it's the classic, you know, what you expect from Ratchet and Clank, but it was sort of the characters and the story bits that really surprised him, that it had this sense of like heart and that he felt like just hadn't really been, or it's just more in on the forefront this time around than previous titles, and that was not surprising, but just like really welcoming and cool to see for him. Because, you know, to be honest, like Ratchet and Clank, those sort of moments, especially with like the OG trilogy, were, I don't want to say rare, but that was like never really their focus, having like these down to earth, like emotional conversations and whatnot. But it definitely seems like here in Rift Apart, that's maybe a little bit more of the focus this time around. So that was cool to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Well, did you see anything from Ratchet Clank Rift Apart?
Well, I don't want to. Okay, so the last couple of days, it's been less excitement and more frustration because I decided to take on those hunting grounds of the internet to scour for a PlayStation 5. Didn't turn out very well.
Yeah, man, I've been trying to help you out on that one, man. Been
I
trying.
appreciate it, man. You the goat. You the goat on that up front. I really appreciate it. But what I've heard, I mean, I'm like Macho, I'm gonna buy the game regardless. I was sold on it with the state of play even more. It's so fast. Having a PS4 and I see all these videos, I'm like, oh my god, what are load times? Do these people know what load times even are?
Actually, so sorry to interrupt, but speaking on that,
go.
I don't know what a loading screen Resident Evil 8 looks like because the game loads so
like.
damn fast.
Yeah, you do, man.
Yeah,
I have no idea what it looks like, bro. Like that's like, to me, that's insane. Like if I go to Resident Evil icon, I lower down to the play cards and I just press resume activity. Like the game loads within 10 seconds and I'm in the game.
Good for you, man.
It's crazy. It's insane.
I'm happy to hear that. I mean, that just makes it. That just means that the PlayStation, it's well worth the money. I mean, at this point, bro, they're centering so many of the aspects of the gameplay around the fact that it loads so fast. So they're like, why the hell not? Let's play between worlds. Let's play with this mechanic that literally pulls you across the stage instantly. Like just the gameplay. That's what sold me. The story. I always try to be as blind as possible towards the story, so I can be as surprised as I can. Rivet, love the design. She looks very appealing in terms of wholesome.
Oh man, pause.
Is that robot arm? Is that what you're saying?
Hey, Walt's gonna hop on the Rule 34 after this, man.
Hey man, I already watched Beastars the anime. I know about that life.
So, oh man.
So honestly,
wrap it up, guys. Wrap it up. Let's go.
It looks great. It looked great.
We gotta end the podcast, man.
The DualShock and Sense furry podcast.
Yeah, man.
As basic as this might sound, and as like little brain it might sound, the colors, the design, it's so colorful, vibrant. It looks like such a fun world to be in, and I cannot wait to hop back in it because I've never been in it, so I'll hop back in it since Ratchet 2015, 2014. I don't remember. Yeah. I'm sad. I need to play as 5, please.
We're gonna keep searching, man. We're gonna keep searching.
Yeah, man. Consensus. I mean, not just between us, but I think really everybody is that. Yeah, Ratchet and Clank looks absolutely incredible, and that we cannot wait to get our hands on it. It's gone gold, so we're literally less than a month away, man. Which is crazy, man. Because a lot of the talk this year has been sort of how quiet everything has been, or it's been dry out here in these gaming streets and whatnot. But since Returnal, Resident Evil, now Ratchet, it just kind of feels like boom, 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 which is nice. To have, we're like it feels like we're the ball is starting to roll now. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the podcast, man. Thank you guys for everyone who tuned in, man. We really appreciate it. Give us a like, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. We would greatly appreciate that. I say this every podcast, but honestly and genuinely, every like matters for sure, with that goddamn algorithm and whatnot. So yeah, let's get these outros underway. Macho, what's going on with you, man? What do you have? You have anything planned this week?
Yeah, just still the Resident Evil Village review. I'm gonna try to hunker down and get like a first draft going. But yeah, Resident Evil is just it's guys sharp teeth synced into me. I'm not gonna say whose teeth they are, but it's guys.
I think we know.
Yeah, and then this weekend, man, it's Final Fantasy 14 Fan Fest. They're gonna do a full live stream Friday and Saturday, and that's gonna be really great. A lot of cool announcements, and then the Guilty Gear Strive beta. I'm gonna dive into all that this weekend, and I'm really, really excited.
Nice, hell yeah, man. What about you, Walt? What's going on, man?
Oh man, I finally got my stuff sent to the new place, so I don't have a PC, I don't have some of my consoles, so I'm pretty barren right now with what I am gonna do. Um, gonna gonna keep playing that Resident Evil and keep grinding that platinum. There's this mode called Mercenaries mode where you need to get a certain amount of rankings in order to obtain a certain item. Uh, I have 2 stages left to get at the double S. I already did every stage except for 2 of them. I'm gonna be doing that. It's been frustrating. I'm ready for more frustration. I'm loving the game, and if anything comes up in the world of entertainment, bunch of movie announcement, all that, I'll be scouring the internet for anything. Oh, by the way, I got my laptop to work, so probably going to be using that if I can. So my Twitter handle will be down in the description if you want to go over there and see if anything drops in the weekend at Walt Lando on Twitter. But yeah, I'll just be waiting. I have like what is it today? Today's the 13th. Maybe like less than a month or so until I move, and I'll be in my new setup, and I'll be able to get more into the groove of all this shenanigans, all this riding, and all this. I'm excited, and I'll probably get a PS5. Oh, I don't know. The world is random.
This man's going low key crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how to move on from that, honestly. As for me, probably just a lot more Returnal coverage on Lognet, so look out for that. And gaming wise, I'm not too sure, honestly. Yeah, I finished Returnal, and Dark Souls 3 I also finished recently as well, so I don't know.
DLC, boy.
No, I'm good. I'm good, man. Oh, so yeah, it might be a little bit of a lull for me, just kind of chilling, I guess. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for joining, and we will catch you guys in the next DualShock and Sense podcast. Peace.